Now, the late Dr. Geingob was a staunch supporter of the media freedom and plurality. The media landscape has enjoyed significant strides under the Geingob administration, and Namibia maintained its continental dominance as the freest press on the continent, and the country has also seen the passing of its access to information law. President Geingob will be remembered for his transparency and engaging the press during press briefings at State House or anywhere else. I'm now joined by the Director General of the NBC, Stanley Similo, who not only will be speaking about Dr. Geingob in his capacity as the Director General, but as someone who has worked with President Geingob, as I said in the morning already. DG, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Now, DG, today is a very somber day for Namibia, for the SADC region. And as you've seen from the reactions, everyone remembers Dr. Geingob in various ways, in different roles, and the impact that he had in their lives and so on. So in your case, DG, this day, as somber as it is also taking you back to how you got to know him and how you worked with him.
Yeah, a difficult day, a difficult moment, extremely sad, but at the same time also laced with, I would say, beautiful moments that I think at the best of time we must also learn to cherish. Yeah, my association with Dr. Geingob, our former president, started way back. I think I was still a small child, but already involved in the media space. Just before independence, I think with the arrival of our leaders from exile, I was already involved in the media. And then I remember as the transition was happening within the country, he was charged with leading that process of making sure that the transition from the colonial rule, apartheid, to a free Namibia happened in a fashion that worked well. Remember, he was designated by former president, the founding Dr. Shafshuna Semnyoma, to come and lead that process. So already at that stage, I got to work with him. And I must also mention that I had greats like Charles Mubita, Nora Polis, Sakina Mugongos, Vitura Kavaris, all of them, Asarantinda, great colleagues in the media that made sure that our transition into a free Namibia from a media perspective was working well. And one of the first things that he did as Prime Minister was to send us as a delegation of Namibian journalists, irrespective of the mediums that we were belonging to Kenya. Mm-hmm. I remember names like Gert Jacobi, I think, Dirk Heinrich, Stanley Katzau, Ted McGill.
So also from private media, not just the
Not
state.
just, yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think at the stage, our ED as PS then was the late Wakolele. Mm-hmm. And they took us to Kenya. And it was quite an eye-opener for us as well to go and see, because it was the first time that we left Namibia to see how other states were doing. And you know that countries like Kenya were already independent. So we came back very rich in understanding what media meant in countries.
The formation of a state.
Yes, that are not under any form of oppression. But then I remember my very first interview, because I was a videographer then, that we went to do in his offices, Prime Minister then, after everything. I was with a journalist called Debbie van Wyk. Mm-hmm. I'm going to reveal something here. Because, you know, one was so scared. So when we got there, and it was the first time also that we got into those offices, because previously it was the apartheid South African entity that had access to offices of the Prime Minister. So we got in there and I saw these buildings and it was like, yo. So we did that interview and we came back. But the thing is, when we got there, the late was so relaxed. And my interest was that how would he deal with Debbie Van Wyk? Debbie Van Wyk's pigmentation,
yes.
extremely light. No, but he was just, no, come in. We must tell stories. We will tell you what we did as SWAPO in exile. We will also share with you. But importantly, we want to create a Namibia that is for everybody. So that was my very first encounter where I saw that he was a person who was open for everybody. And then I think 2 months later or so, I had the opportunity to travel with him to Brussels.
Okay, now before we get to Brussels, but I was going to get the DG. How did the interview go?
No,
After he cracked the ice open to for the atmosphere to be conducive for your colleague, how did it go? Was he...
The interview went well, but I could sense at the time that Debbie was on her nerves because she didn't know what to do. Because as she was speaking as the journalist, she would say, Minister, sir, Your Worship, because these titles were foreign to us.
Yes.
Like Honorable Prime. And then he would say, no, relax. Let's stop. Drink a little bit of water here. So we left understanding that, look, we are safe. That's the impression that he has left. Because when we drove back to the station, Debbie said to me, you know, Stan, I was so scared. I didn't know what to ask. But the Prime Minister helped me to relax, to become the journalist that I am. And that's then how that relationship started growing. So we came back knowing that we were there.
We have the Prime Minister's backing. Yes.
Yeah.
And then you were there as a camera operator.
Yes, I was a videographer then here.
Now the Brussels event where the Lome Agreement was signed was also quite significant for young democracy like Namibia.
Extremely, because if you would know, that convention spoke about support that I think Europe would be giving to some countries on this part of the world. So the Prime Minister was designated by President Nyoma to go and sign that. And I was lucky again to travel with him to Brussels, again with Debbie. And the funny thing is, we stayed at the Hilton Hotel. Now I'm going to speak about a funny thing here. Now, you know, these hotels, they have these mini bars. So when I got in, I saw mine, I opened up, I looked at these things. I said, there are too many, it can't be mine. On the other hand, Debbie was clearing her mini bar on a daily basis. So we did the business. I think we stayed about 3, 4, 5 days. When we left, Debbie had a huge bill. And you know what happened? The late president paid out of his own pocket.
Did he not take the receipt and question?
No, he just paid because we didn't know that those things, if you make use of them, you will have to pay
for them
and
separately.
I felt sorry that I didn't clean my mini bar as well. But such a person was he, that he took care of that. And then he schooled us, look, when you travel internationally, this is what happens. When you get to a hotel and you say this thing, ask the people whether it's for free. Because if you don't, you'll end up having to pay for that, So that also was another side of him being the person that he is, where he said, don't worry, I'll take care of this one.
And that is a trait that he kept to this day, DG, I can testify. But there were also some programs, NBC programs. I know he's fond of also the latest programs of NBC, but coming from those years, there are those that he would still remember and sometimes would even ask yourself or the board chairperson about those programs to which to my understanding you were instrumental in setting them up and then just for information to disseminate to the Namibian nation. So did you receive the same support that he has been giving to NBC lately back then as well?
100%. I transcended then from being a videographer into the newsroom where I worked as assistant editor, by the way. And we were responsible for Output News. So we did that, and then those that were responsible for my growth then saw that, no, I needed to move out of the newsroom. And then what is today known as Content Hub was then called Local Television Programs. And I was appointed as manager. That's where then we created programs like Talk of the Nation, Your Tutalenis, and so on. And it's amazing how he would watch these programs, and he would give critical comment on what he sees and what he experiences. And one of the points that he would always maintain and bring to our attention would be that, look, as you do your programs, why do you only concentrate on negativity? There's so much great things happening in this country, and they need to be relayed so that people can also see the other side. And that is what he has been keeping doing up until his last day. You will remember, not so long back, one of our journalists, reporters, presenters, Ilago, was also invited because of the program called In the Community. Because the late saw the value of that program. And for us, it was a great thing, because it was a manifestation of that, yes, as president, he's also appreciating what we do. And you know, in the community, we tell stories that are not seen and heard every day. So his interest in that has always been as such that if he sees something great, he would voice it. But equally, if we from the media space would come and present and say things that are not, yes, then he would also not be afraid to tell you. And NBC was not spared of that. Well, we've had our own...
A lot of times.
Yes, yeah. But again, as I said, as DG, I've always said that, well, we are open for criticism. We will always listen. And you can only grow out of that. Yes, yeah.
So now, DG, the programs that were established at that time, the Prime Minister's Question Time, and you serving on the Independence Day Preparatory Committee, how was the workflow? Because I know, or how I sum up Dr. Geingob is, firstly, he was a perfectionist when it comes to work, that things must be done, work must be done. How you do it, that's your problem, but work must be done.
Yeah, look, after independence, every year we would observe the day. But then we discovered that as we were going along, especially from a media perspective, we were highly disorganized. So he called us to what would today, I don't know whether it's still a constitutional room, but it used to be the former cabinet chambers as well. And then he said, no, I have decided, as he was Prime Minister then, that I want to create this committee that must be a fixed one on the calendar of government, where we have proper discussions around how celebrations of our National Day should be handled. I remember it was myself, Hilde Besson, Sebastian Kamungu, and Stephen Kotzer. So we served in that committee until I left the NBC. And what that did for us was, it gave us direction as to how we would go about in making sure that the approach to making sure that we reflect the day in a proper fashion works very, very, very well for us. That was the one. And then the second one was, at the time, the creation of Prime Minister's Question Time started at National FM under, I think, Robin Tyson at the time. And then as time was going, we said that, but those that are into watching television are
being left
out.
Yes.
So then we did that, and then we would use then the same for both radio and TV. And it has proven to be quite a popular program as well, because the ordinary Namibians will then be able to get a glimpse and hear what is happening. And you will also recall that that went and extended beyond his time into Meme Kuongwela as well, as Prime Minister as well. But the most challenging assignment that him and former president, the founding, gave me was, I'm not too sure whether it was in 1993 or 94. They were in cabinet, and round about 2, I got a call that I need to go. Blanche, I was shaking. The first thing I thought was, I asked who said I must come. No, it's President Nyoma and Prime Minister Hage Geingob. I said, but why should I go there? Can they not call the DG then?
The DG,
Said, no, the message was, you must come. So I went there, and I got in there, you know, not understanding politics or how these protocol things work. I stepped in, and they were sitting there. And I was quiet. Now, President Nyoma said, Muleko, calling me with my father's surname. Muleko, come in. Come and sit here. And you know Hage, big, was looking at me, and said, look, this Sunday, it was a Easter's weekend, and it was Wednesday. The coming Sunday, we want to broadcast from Ungulumbasha. But remember, Blanche, there was nothing at the time. It was just
shrine,
nothing, just bush. And they asked me, and I was heading up, which is today called Content Hub. They asked me, can it be done? I said, yes. Can NBC do it? I say, no. And they asked, how are you going to do it? I said, don't worry, I will deliver, but I'll need money. So we had that discussion, and after 45 minutes, I left. My difficulty then was now, how do I come and inform my seniors that, look, this is what
is the assignment.
So I turned back, and I said, I have a question to ask. If I go back now, I have people who are more senior than I am. How do I tell them, how did I get here without them knowing?
Without their knowledge.
And I won't say who of the two gave the answer, but the answer was that if they have the problem, let them call.
I think I know who said that.
I will not say. But then we came and we went to do the production. Sadly so, that was also the period where my colleague Charles, Dr. Charles Mabita, lost his wife in the motor accident. But then we carried on with the production, and there was a lady, some of you might remember her, Virginia Witz. Charles was going to do the commentary, and then Virginia took over. But we successfully carried out the production because we got assistance from South Africa.
Now, DG, do you remember that question or that phrase, can it be done? Yes. Where will you get the money from? And then you said, no, we have it under control. Do you remember that day? As I said, that this day is a somber day, but it's also taking you down the memory lane. But this that I'm referring to is the day that yourself with the former board of directors went to announce, I think in 2017, while he was in office, to tell him about the new programs that NBC would be coming up, and these were some of the questions. So when you said that he asked the question back then as Prime Minister,
and then again.
So
yeah, it was almost like going down memory lane, because on this particular one that you're asking, it was a matter of how are you going to be able to do this without having extra money? I said, no, at the best of times, sometimes you just need to apply creative thinking. And we did that, and we did that. Yeah.
So you pulled it off. Now, DG, NBC or the president was a staunch supporter of media freedom, and like you just described him, he would watch NBC programs with a very keen eye, wanting to know where were these programs shot and why wasn't A, B, C, and D included, and so on. So he always had some comments. So as NBC, away from the programming that we offered that actually made him happy and sometimes even sad, but still sticking to the media freedom part of it, as NBC, this morning you, this morning at around 2 a.m., all of us were up, including yourself.
Yeah.
So how are we remembering him now?
The best that we can do is just to showcase his greatness. And there's so much of examples around that as well. And this morning, as we were speaking, because I was in touch with the presidency, yourself, Peter Denk and Stephen Coates, and thanks for the team here as well. I was also asking myself is that, how will we do justice to a person this great? Where do you start? Where do you end? I ended up calling my minister, my line minister, Dr. Moshelenga, and I said, Senior, we are faced with this thing now. Please guide. How should we go about it? Here's my idea. I've had a chat with the chairperson of the board and our executive director. We have agreed that this is the approach that we will be taking. And then the minister said, no, DG, I think you guys are on the right track, but just make sure that you include these elements as well, so that we have a great and a good representation of where we are going. So we ended up speaking to quite a couple of people that are in power in making sure that we get this day and have it run in a fashion that will give the necessary respect bestowed on a leader like the late president as well. And for you guys, I really just need to say thank you as well, because since this morning, for both radio, TV, and online, we've been there making sure that we keep the nation informed. And again, this just now shows, remember, you have a lot of people that would say, but NBC is not needed. It's in times like this that I believe people value the presence of public broadcasters, because for us now is to dig very deep and come out, tell a story without ridiculing. Remember, I'm on record for saying that we are not tabloid. It's never going to be our job to display any Namibian, irrespective of position in society, in a fashion that would show them in weakness. Our difficulty now is that you have the most senior person in the country no longer being there. What do you do? But because of also our own editorial policies that are in place, style guide books that we are following, but at the same time, having firm judgment, I believe that we are on the right track. This is just the first day, by the way.
And that will continue the rolling coverage.
Yes.
Now, DG, you are wearing two hats, SABA, and you have had engagements with the president as the president of SABA as well, which also culminated in the launching of the SADC regional program. Now, earlier today, the SADC Secretariat was among the first to pour in tribute, stating the role that President Geingob played in regional integration. And our programs, I on SADC, to an extent, also showcases the developments in the SADC region.
A very good point and a reminder. As the Southern African Broadcasters Association, for which Namibia has been the chair now for the odd 8 years or so, we have done extremely well. Namibia is respected as a country exactly because us maintaining the #1 spot in terms of media freedom. And that did not come by chance. It also came as a result of pronouncements made by the late. Remember, he is and was on record for saying that for as long as he is the president of this country, the media in Namibia will enjoy its freedom.
No journalists will
There will be
arrested.
no regulation in that regard. Up to the extent, I think there was a year or two where we lost out on the #1 spot, and it was simply because of the signing into law the access to information. But as soon as that was done by our line minister, guess what happened? We came back being #1. Now, that's very important. As president of SABA, in that role, I meet with a lot of the public broadcasters within the region. And one of the things that they always say is that, it's amazing how you guys, as a public broadcaster and the rest of the media, can report on your things within your country. And that is testimony again to how the administration current has been able to foster a spirit of us being free as media practitioners. And this morning, when I send a note out to the colleagues, because as CEOs within SADC, under Sabah, I put it on after everything was confirmed. And the condolences that came in, the colleagues saying that, but Namibia has lost a leader that some of us wish we have or had. And I was speaking to the Vice President of Sabah, who was from Eswatini, and he was saying that I must also pass greetings from the Sabah family to the Geingob family and the people of Namibia. SABC also contacted me, but the nice thing is I also saw you were reading many of these messages coming through as well. So to come back to your point, we as Namibia have been the torch bearers on this score. So the number one position is not by mistake, it's by design. And all attributes must go to the former president because of the environment that he has created, where media can challenge him, challenge his ministers, but he would also challenge back. You know, he would
to
always
create
say,
a debate.
if you don't read as a journalist, he would call you out. And many of our colleagues have learned the hard way. That's how he was. Standing firm, being fair, speaking his mind, but also respecting and also expecting to be respected.
Now, DG, throughout the day, we broadcast the views from ordinary Namibians as well. And I think two gentlemen from, I think it was from the northern side, northern part of the country, whereby they just expressed positivity, saying that let's mourn our president, but then let's remain optimistic, and let's the greatest respect that we can accord him is to remain united and to continue on the path that he has left. Now, DG, you are saying that we have been the torchbearer when it comes to media freedom, and all thanks to what the late administration has laid. So in this case, DG, remember he passed on as a sitting president. So we know lessons from other countries have shown us that in such scenarios that a country can descend into chaos.
Yeah.
So here, media freedom being fundamental, as you said, in a development of a society, how then are we going to maintain that torch that is burning?
Look, Namibia, first of all, is a country governed by laws. We've just seen it with the passing, sadly so, of our former president, the swearing in of President Bumba and the vice president, speaks exactly to those tenets of saying that whatever the law says, derived from the Constitution, and in this case, I think it's Article 29 and 34, it's very clear. When this type of thing happens, this is what must happen. And we've all witnessed it on national television, NBC for that matter, where the new president was sworn in, but fundamentally and profoundly so, he made the statement saying that, look, I'm not going to be here for long. I'm going to be keeping this space up until the time that the former would have, because soon we'll be having elections, and then the process will play out on its own. That, if that is not testimony to good governance and understanding what these rights are, as a country that says that we believe in democracy, then I won't know any other. So I'm not worried, so should the media not be. Because I think what he stood for and for what we have achieved as a collective, either at level of government, cabinet, and as a Namibian people in totality, I think we've done a great deal. I mean, I have seen also messaging coming from all corners. Today we are as united as never before, and that is what gives us hope.
That is what being from the land of the brave is all about. Now, DG, throughout this week or the coming week, up until the burial, people will be glued to NBC. People will want to verify information pertaining to the arrangements, which will be announced by government in due course. So as NBC, can you share the editorial insights that we will have to look out for, and that we make sure that we are consistent as the national broadcaster in rolling out this coverage?
That we must do, that we will have to do, because it's our mandate. Secondly, we are already busy working on the plan. You're part of that group as well, which is led by myself. Tomorrow we will be having a session where we will be looking at all aspects as to how we must deal and cover this. And equally, we will also be informed through the presidency as to what their plans are. And on the basis of that, we will make sure that we inform our people as consistently and regular as we can. But at the same time, it will also give us an opportunity to celebrate his life, because we've got so much of archive material around things that he has done, things that he has said. And I would please you guys also show the lighter side of the president as well. Because what comes to mind is him walking along seaside with his family. Mm-hmm. We must see that, because he was a father, a grandfather, an uncle, and father to many. So let's show that as well, so that we can remember him.
Somebody actually sent that clip to me earlier today, saying that we hardly see these things in our country. Is that how safe Namibia is? Can I come to, or can I also come with my prime minister to come and walk around here? And I said, just come.
Yeah.
Just come.
But at the same time as well, we should also guard that we don't diminish what he stood for, because he's been a leader highly respected within SADC, continent, and beyond. And of late, what we know and what we've seen was particularly his relationship with President Masisi. It stood out as a beacon of how things should be done. The issue of doing away with passports, getting to us to travel to Botswana with IDs, that was quite major things. The hydrogen scheme, I think at a personal level, that is most probably something that he would have wanted to see through as well. And also just giving over power closer to the elections, that naturally, I believe, would have been one of the ideals that he would have wanted to do. But as we know, there are forces bigger than us that we cannot sometimes at the best of times understand. And as the president today says, President Bumba, is that those that were treating him were really trying their utmost to make sure that we are not where we are today. Mm-hmm. But that's our reality. But to come back to your point, as NBC, we will do what we do best. That is to inform and make sure that people know exactly what is happening. But all of that we will always be doing in a fashion that is laced with dignity, so that we don't lose. The only thing that I am really sad about, we're busy with the AFCON. Mm-hmm. And he was a staunch supporter.
He was a staunch supporter.
I saw in one of the clips, he had his T-shirt on.
Never walk alone.
You will never walk alone. Okay, I'm a menu. And we would clash over that as well. And one day he was telling me, I think we must just absorb menu into Liverpool. I'm just saddened that he could not enjoy what AFCON today was giving in terms of the explosive nature of this game. Mm-hmm. But we will make sure that we leave that on his behalf.
Yes, so I remember when he watched the first game and the Brave Warriors won against the Tunisia, him declaring the team as a first class, stating that there are no underdogs in this team, that we are forced to be reckoned with. And that's really just how how he was. And that never walk alone T-shirt or the shirt, if I'm to reveal things here, DG, First Lady also has.
Aha.
So,
and Peter Deng, by the way, he's close to be #1 supporter as the president as well, because he's 100% Liverpool.
I was, the day the Egyptian ambassador, I'm revealing secrets here, Mr. D, went to announce by the president that Mo Salah would likely come this year during the country's independence celebrations, maybe just for a friendly with our national team. And when I came back, I briefed my assignment editor, Daud, and said, Daud, I'm sitting with this. The ambassador announcing this and then the bilateral matters now. So then he advised that I split the stories and give one to Sports Bulletin.
Yes.
Then I wrote the stories, and then Wampia, as we call him, the HOD came in the newsroom and said, but that's a strong story.
Yeah, it must be in the news. We must not be conflicted. Yeah.
So yes, and yeah, so even during that announcement, I will also have to look for a clip to share the president's reaction.
Yes.
The president was quite happy because he questioned the ambassador and said, why do you want to bring him in his capacity as the national team player? Why not
as
Liverpool?
As Liverpool.
So, yes.
Yeah. So that's the part for me that I feel that it would have been so great if you would have been around to see, particularly the AFCON games this year, apart from the pronouncement that he made at the time. And I think that also had spurred on the Namibian Brave Warriors to reach the level that they did, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yes, DG, we continue to recollect the president's legacy and just the final thing that you really are probably keeping to your heart, but right now,
yeah,
all gloves are off.
Look, it's a difficult time because I cannot help but be nostalgic at a level unprecedented. Remember, I've known him when I was a young person, and I've all the time gone through him, even when I left NBC and I was away for about 15 years. We would also keep contact. And incidentally, I was speaking to Ambassador Auhamub just earlier on because I was looking for him, and I understand that he landed about 4 hours back in Namibia. And I was, because we were sharing now things that we have in common, insofar as the late is. And yeah, Blanche, it's difficult to talk, it's too early, but we will see how the time will go. All I can say, even for our own staff, let's keep our composure. Let's remain as professional as we are. Let's help Namibians to deal with this matter, because being in the mass media space that we are in, if we do things the wrong way around, we can easily do things that may not work for us. But up to now, I think we've been great, and again, thank you to people like yourselves, the camera people, and those that are making sure that our transmissions are running. And yeah, that's what we will do. Our job is to reflect and make sure that Namibia is this beacon of greatness that we all aspire to be as things are moving forward as well.
All right then. Well, thank you so much, DG, for sharing your thoughts as in your capacity as the videographer, in your capacity as the Director General, and as President of SABA, and also as someone who knew Dr. Geingob personally. I know you have gone to Casa Rosalia. I know the First Lady loves saying that all Namibians come here, whether invited or not, they just come here. And the President's motto was that nobody should be chased away.
Yeah, we're not there.
So, yes, so you have spent some time. So thank you so much.